All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to our first in-person Kopenhaver Center event at Stevens College. But we also have our friends on Zoom today. So thank you all for joining us. And I want to mention that this workshop is being recorded and it will be available on our YouTube and our website as well, kopenhaver.stevens.edu. And I'd like to start off just by thanking the Florida International University and their Kopenhaver Center, including the director, Dr. Lillian Lodge Kopenhaver, as well as our Kopenhaver satellite centers, so Rowan University and Marymount University, for their continued partnership. Our annual conference is also coming up. So to plug that a little bit, it's hosted by FIU. We're very excited about it on October 20th, and that will go from 12 to 2 p.m. Central Time. And it will be a virtual event that is free and open to all. And there are some fantastic speakers lined up, so please join us if you can. You can register at go.fiu.edu /futureisfemale. So today we have a very special guest, Rikki Menn. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Rikki is a Stevens College alum, having earned a bachelor's in marketing, PR, and advertising, as well as a master's in strategic leadership. And she's currently a client executive in analyst relations at Spotlight, which is an analyst relation firm which is committed to helping technology and services companies create productive relationships with influential and knowledgeable industry analysts. And so this topic today about building relationships, I think, will be perfect for your career as well. And so we'll be asking you about that a little bit. But yeah, we're so excited that you are here to talk about mastering the art of strategy and building productive relationships. So thank you again for joining us.
Absolutely.
So I thought we could actually start off with your time at Stevens and talking about that. You have left a pretty amazing legacy here as one of the founding members of Creative Inc. And our student-run marketing firm at Stevens, for those of you who are not here on campus. Could you tell us about some of those experiences that you had here that you felt were especially helpful for you going out into your future careers?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I want to start by saying thank you for the invite to come back home and have the conversation. Stevens has a very special place in my heart, but just to set some additional context about my time here, I spent nearly 7 years in Columbia here at Stevens College. So I did my undergrad, graduated in 2009, did my master's degree until 2010, and then actually stayed and worked at Stevens because I loved it so much and just wanted to spread the good word until 2012. So I have quite a bit of love and experience in all different facets of Stevens College here. But looking back at Creative Inc., and I think just looking at my undergrad experience, there were a number of things, but I think first and foremost, creating my village of people. I think Stevens has a very special group of people, of young women, of faculty and staff. And so I would not be where I am today without having built those relationships. But then also just the opportunities that came within Stevens College, one of it being Creative Inc. So while I was one of the first members, it was actually our amazing faculty at the time, Susan Bartell and Kate Gray, who launched Creative Inc. And so I was encouraged to apply. My second semester of my junior year, got in, had no idea what I was doing, had no agency experience at that point, but I think that's okay. Just it's a good environment to learn and fail and succeed and everything in between. But even though I had just started that second semester of my junior year, I was able to leverage that experience with Creative Inc. for a summer internship in New York at Wonderman, which is a direct marketing agency in New York. So right on Madison Avenue, felt very Mad Men-ish, just to be able to live in New York and travel to an agency and just live this life. But I actually learned about this internship from an alumna visiting campus. So much like what I'm doing here today on Stevens College campus, I took the opportunity to introduce myself and just start building that connection with her. And she was actually working at Wonderman at the time. And so I interviewed for the position and ended up spending that summer in New York. So since then, I've had a lot of internship experiences, but my summer at Wonderman was probably one of the most enlightening, most thoughtful internship programs that I've ever been part of. So it was very hands-on with an assigned mentor. I also had the opportunity to work with clients. So I had that FaceTime with clients and that experience. I had a number of at-bats, and to be able to be put in front of leadership at Wonderman was just an experience that I hadn't had before, but was able to use that as my summer internship for Stevens College. But it really helped me grow my skill set, especially as I came back to Stevens at my senior year to take the lead of Creative Inc. So I was assigned as the firm director and really take what I learned from that summer at Wonderman and apply it to help the team move forward and lead the team of women that I had. But, you know, prior to graduating, I was fully ready to take on New York and take the agency world by storm there. But actually remember talking to my advisor at the time, and she was like, you should certainly apply for the graduate assistantship that we have here, knowing that you're interested in the master's program. I just myself and who I am, I like take every opportunity that comes my way. And the worst that could happen is I get denied, I don't go, I go off to New York. But I actually applied and was able to secure a graduate assistantship in our alumni relations office. So I worked with our alumni group throughout my graduate program here at Stevens. But that's really where I had the opportunity to meet so many amazing women and really have that FaceTime with our amazing network that we have. And really, truly, it has served me well throughout my entire professional career, especially as I look at most every job that I've had post Stevens has been through a Stevens connection. So it's the network is strong, and I love to be able to come back and share my experience and help meet new future leaders, women leaders like yourselves.
And as part of that assistantship when you were at Stevens, so you really traveled all over the country, right? Not just for recruitment purposes, but you met Stevens graduates and heard their stories and really how impactful the school was for them as well, and in their life. How did that experience, and you kind of spoke to this as well, but how did that experience really help you learn how to build those relationships and sort of branch out?
Yeah. So following graduation, that was more towards whenever I was working for Stevens, you know, stayed and worked. I was convinced at the time, not convinced, it was easy just because of the love that I had for Stevens. But President Lynch actually created a hybrid position between alumni relations and admissions. And so it was really an opportunity to travel the country. And I did that with my friend Jamie, who was also a Stevens alum. And we traveled leveraging our amazing network of women and really used that to identify areas of opportunity for recruitment. And I feel like my time at Stevens and just in the different roles that I had and being in front of the alumni, I think it really helped me understand that there is a little bit of art in terms of building relationships. And I started to learn and understand that at Stevens. And I truly believe it's about starting with intention of wanting to build that relationship with an individual and then being honest with that approach. I think sometimes we're like just willy-nilly like, oh, it'd be nice to meet you, which of course it's going to be nice to meet someone, but I think that there should be intention and transparency in that approach. And so we certainly did that in this hybrid role as we were traveling across the country. So we'd reach out to alumni explaining what we were doing and how we wanted to learn about other areas of opportunity for recruitment, and even see if they'd help connect us to the right folks in these opportunity areas. And more times than not, because we have an amazing network, they would. But I feel like that's where a lot of people fall short in building relationships is the follow-up. So instead of just sending like quick thank you for your time today. Like, this was wonderful. We were very intentional in our gratitude following that call. So we would make sure that we would reach out and sustain that relationship with that alumna. We would say, thank you for making that connection. Here's what happened with that connection. So we were able to get it into doors where Stevens historically hadn't been. We were able to recruit young women to apply from schools that they weren't applying from before. But then even seeing that some were then accepted and then attending Stevens College is still amazing to see today. But I think just all of that, it really helped show me the art of building relationships.
And kind of on that same note, I know you and I have personally talked about how you've mentored some of our current students even. So that really speaks to, keeping those relationships as well. And really, and I've heard too, how influential that connection has been with you for them as well. Have you had an experience with a mentor that has been especially influential for you? And also, what advice would you give to students, especially, but anybody just starting out or seeking out mentors?
Yeah, absolutely. So Stevens truly teaches you the power of the network, and I leaned into it whenever I could. So just like you all are taking the opportunity to come, sit here, meet me, have a conversation, that's what I did, and that's what I encourage you to keep doing, especially as you're seeing our amazing women come back to campus. But I was really able to harness that in the creation of Full Circle when I was a graduate assistant, which was a mentorship program between our alumni base, and our current students. I don't know if it's still up and running today, but I told Bethany, I was like, if it is, like, sign me up, please. Like, would love to be part of that. But this project really helped me understand that there is a method to mentorship. I think it's easy to say, Rikki, I want you to be my mentor. And I will look back at you and be like, but why? Like, why me? So I strongly believe, going into a mentorship, roles and expectations need to be set. And that it's clearly defined on both sides. I feel like I've been in situations where I know I'm recognized as someone who will be great at mentorship and get asked for coffee on a regular basis. And I know it's because I'm a BIPOC woman higher up in my career, and there's not many of us up there, especially in the field that I'm in. And so while I'm happy to sit down and chat, I honestly think that I just want to make sure that I'm meeting those expectations and I'm providing you the guidance that you're actually looking for. Of course, there's that social aspect and the bonding aspect that I love to do, just in my nature. I get it from my mother, who just wants to talk to everyone and get to know them. But I think in terms of mentorship, I think really truly understanding what your intentions are going into it.
Have a plan,
Have a plan,
strategy.
yes.
Yeah, for sure. And have follow-up as well.
Have a follow-up.
Well, yeah, could you talk a little bit about your current position, your current career, and kind of how you got there? And
yeah, absolutely. I'll go back a little bit further beyond my current role, but prior to my current role, my job was with a healthcare nonprofit in St. Louis, and so it was my role was very much focused on partnerships and building those relationships and the engagement aspect of it. But just a little bit of backstory here. So because of my work during my graduate assistantship here at Stevens, years later, the Alumni Association Board President that I was working with at the time was now the chief of staff of this new organization, or this healthcare organization. She reached out to me years later. So I haven't crossed paths with her in 5-6 years. And she was like, hey, because of the work that you did at Stevens College, working with me while I was on the Alumni Association Board, I think you would be a great fit for this job. And so she reached out to me. So just knowing Stevens women are everywhere and they're going to find you. They want to find you and they want to work with you. But I spent nearly 7 years in my role building a network of community partners and on behalf of my organization. So one of my main responsibilities was maintaining relationships. Was maintaining two 30-member advisory boards. which meant that I was always actively recruiting because people would naturally roll off if they were to leave their organization, move out of town, whatever it may be. But while it was a lot about recruitment, it was a lot about really learning and understanding and meeting people where they are. So seeing what amazing work they were doing in the community based on their organization, seeing how their potential membership with our organization would be mutually beneficial. While we wanted to make sure that we had smart people on our board, we wanted to make sure that we had the right organizations represented based on our strategic plan. We wanted to make sure that it was the right fit and not just filling seats to fill seats. While some of it was recruiting, a lot of it was sustaining those relationships. And so this really taught me that relationships are work. So that's just one aspect of that role, was staying in touch with 60 people. I did it in a conscious way, and showing that effort that I reached out to every board member on a regular basis outside of our monthly meetings. And it was really because we wanted to make sure that when it came time to having them join us for an initiative or join us, we needed an ask of them, that we weren't just coming to them, because no one wants you to come and just ask you for something just out of the blue. Like, you need to build those relationships. So that was really my role, is just to make sure that I'm touching base with people over time and really understanding who they are as a person, recognizing that, hey, Joe doesn't really like to engage in a large public meeting. I need to meet with Joe on the side. So let me meet with Joe and see where he is and see how we can grow that relationship, and from both sides of it too. But I really learned that same concept applies to the work that I do in analyst relations today, and helping my clients build those productive, influential relationships with industry analysts. So while it's a little more technical in nature on the analyst relations side, I'm coaching my clients to be top of mind for these analysts. That analysts know that when their clients come to them and say, I need a vendor in this particular space, who do you recommend? That I'm helping build that connection and saying, you need to beef up your go-to-market. You need to look at how you're addressing the market trends that are evolving over time. And so we want to, make sure that my clients are seen as thought leaders in the space with these influential analysts. So I tell my clients all the time that analyst relations is a long-term game, and it takes time to build those relationships. And I think the same thing can be applied and understood just across the board in mentorship in general.
Yeah, so maintaining those relationships, so for many reasons, but so that, yeah, when you know what you want, you know who to go to, but then you're also not cold calling them, that,
Right.
You've built that relationship and that trust there as well. Very important. And I do also want to mention to anybody on Zoom, if you have any questions that come up, please put them in the chat and we'll make sure to get them over to you. And also to anyone here today, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Yeah. So any questions so far out there? Well, also, so at your current position, you have an internship program as well. And is there, and this is something that, again, here is your connection at Stevens for a potential internship or job in the future. Yeah, did you want to speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So Spotlight Analyst Relations, we're based in Kansas City, Missouri, but have a number of remote folks across the country. This past summer was actually the first summer that we had a built out formal internship program. I think we brought on about 5 interns, spanning our business everywhere from business development to marketing, to data and analytics. So next year, because of the success of that program, we've already opened up summer 2023 internship applications. So I encourage everyone who is interested to apply, and I would love to be able to help make that connection for you as well. I believe just because of the sheer success that we had with the internship program this summer, and we actually extended job offers to, I think, 4 of the 5 interns, some who are starting part-time just given their school schedule this December, but most of them have job opportunities as they're graduating in May. But because of that success that we saw from the summer, we're looking to summer 2023 and expanding that program. I want to say, I think like 10 interns. Don't quote me, don't quote me. But we are accepting applications. And so I think if there's any interest, I would love to share more about AR, more about our business here at Spotlight, to be able to say like, I got a Stevens connection, I got a Stevens alum, graduate student with me. So
so, and in kind of shifting gears here, I know that we had first connected through LinkedIn. Do you find that social media is a good way to reach out and, connect with people and or maintain those relationships, maybe combined with, the in-person element? And if so, do you have any suggestions for doing that in a way that is, professional?
yeah. I think LinkedIn's totally appropriate. Kamachi, I like followed up with you on a conversation. I think, but obviously I'm one person, so take my experience with a grain of salt, but I think LinkedIn is totally appropriate. And then moving it over to email, I think because sometimes it can just get lost in the noise with LinkedIn. But certainly leveraging LinkedIn to share your perspective on things, to show your thought leadership, to show that you're dialed in and tuned in to whatever area that you want to move forward in your career. So for example, with my LinkedIn, I'm following a lot of my clients because I want to know what they're currently posting, see if there's opportunities that they're not thinking of that I can bring to them as recommendations for the analyst channel. So making sure that I'm staying top of mind on my analysts. So I think if there are companies that you're interested, start following them, start following the individuals, those influential leaders within that. I know sometimes LinkedIn can be seen as like an old person thing, but I certainly think that as you're growing your professional network too, there's a lot of benefits to that too. And especially if you don't have those email addresses right away, LinkedIn for sure would be your best route going forward.
So it looks like we have a question here. So when you are managing multiple relationships, this is from Geneva Pace. When you are managing multiple relationships, what best practices do you employ to manage timelines and make sure no one falls through the cracks?
So with my previous role at the healthcare nonprofit, I mean, I had a spreadsheet going of like all of my advisory board members listed out because people can easily fall through their cracks. And then I will be the first to tell you, I don't have the greatest memory, so I need to jot everything down. So I would just maintain whatever record I needed to in an Excel spreadsheet, just everyone listed what was the last time I met with them, about what time do I need to meet with them next, plotted on my calendar. It was a lot of intentional work and work that needed to be done in order to sustain those relationships. And so people felt it too, like they know when it's genuine and you just want to continue to build that relationship. Because like I said earlier, like they'll call you out on it too. If you're just coming at a time of an ask, like they're gonna more times than not say no, like no thank you, like that's all you want me for. So I think as much as possible, writing things down, utilizing your calendar. I live and die by my calendar all day, every day. And then with my current clients with analyst relations, I'm on a team that I lead a client team with my client partner who, I work with multiple client partners, but they're really helping me manage the logistics of the program, making sure that here are all the core analysts that we've identified. Here's when we need to meet with them. And we're always looking at that engagement plan to say, who do we need to reach out to next? What is the objective and goal of this conversation? And really staying on top of it. So I think just naturally I'm an organizer too, and I'm a planner. So I think it just comes naturally to me a little bit, but I think as much as you can, writing down and utilizing the tools and resources that you have available.
And so now I kind of want to put it more towards the audience here. So those of you here in person, think of some questions here. Okay, we have another one from Nicole Martin. Hi, Nicole. Hello. In terms of mentorship, are there other important things outside of defining expectations that are often forgotten or put as too low of a priority in your opinion?
That's a hard one, Nicole. Let's see, I think, well, more times than not, it's you're seeking mentors in terms of like your career. But I think also knowing and recognizing that I'm more than just my career. And so seeing and recognizing that I've somewhat learned, I'm still refining how to figure out the work-life balance thing, but I think knowing that there's more to our mentorship than just the career development aspect of it. I think especially just being, growing in my career, that I've been where you are, like I know that experience, but then to be able to say and take it into, I'm still in my career and thriving in my career, but I also have a growing family too. And so somehow making it all work, and you can too. So I think recognizing that more times than not, it's always so focused on the career, but seeing that there's so much more to that relationship that you can lean into, I would say.
And do you think that, well, I'll ask this first, do you think that as a woman in this particular field, and also you have a family, do you think that there's certain expectations of you in the workplace, or certain maybe obstacles that you found that you've had to face as a woman in the field?
I'm very fortunate to work for an amazing company, Spotlight, who really put such a focus and intention behind hiring women in their early days, so before my time. So much so that we are now balanced. I think we're like 60% women, 40% men, which is pretty good, especially when you look at standard, typical organizations, especially when we're working with so many tech companies and services companies. So I feel like the women early in Spotlight days really helped set that precedent, but it's truly helped create a culture in which I feel like I can easily add time on my, like 4 o'clock every day, I shut my computer down, it's on my calendar because it says daycare pickup, like I gotta go, like they start charging by the minute if I don't pick them up on time. So it's, making sure, I feel like we have that culture now that we're able to like dedicate that time. Granted, it took a little bit of time at my time at Spotlight to be able to get to that point. So I recognize that it's not easily done right out of the gate with a new job. But I would say, it's being able and recognizing that we do have the flexibility to be able to tend to the kids' daycare pickup or doctor's appointments. We actually just started based on a lot of feedback that Spotlight was getting from parents. We have these GSD days now, which are get F done. And those are the days where they're like federal holidays. So Veterans Day, for example, a lot of times my clients, they're still open, but daycare closed. And so we have these GSD days that are built into our calendar where we're saying no client meetings this day, just get your stuff done, like just use it as a time to catch up. But we also recognize if you need to shut down, like shut down, because I likely will have to shut down because it's impossible to work with kids. But I think we've just been able to create such a flexible culture for women, especially moms in my workplace, that I truly am grateful for and appreciate. And one of the things that has drawn me to Spotlight.
Yeah, getting to know what company you are working for too, and researching them and making sure that they will support you as women, or a person with a family, and that they will support you in that. So yeah, what other questions do we have from the audience, either on Zoom or in person here? It's Esther.
I was just curious because obviously you've had a lot of opportunities come your way, and with myself, I also like to take every opportunity that comes my way, but that tends to end up with an overloaded plate. So I was just curious if you have any advice on how to say no, or what ways to be like, as much as I love this opportunity, but it's not meant for me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. for me especially, it's hard to say no. But I think you should absolutely just sit with that opportunity for a minute and like, let's break it down. Like, what is the value for me personally? Do I have the bandwidth and the time to be able to do that? Does it make sense for where I see myself moving forward in my career? If you can check these boxes too, it's like, yes, it's a no-brainer. Like I should have absolutely, I'm gonna make the time for it. If I'm losing an extra hour of sleep at night, like I'll get it done. I'll do it. But I think if it doesn't, it's like I have to move on from those too. And that's okay. Like that's okay. And I've certainly done that in my time as well, because like I said, it's hard for me to say no to opportunities. And so, because I do need to sleep, I enjoy my sleep. Some people don't. I don't know. I don't know how they do it. But it's certainly okay to say no, but just taking every opportunity and like going through your requirements for saying yes or no to taking that thing.
And weighing the pros and cons and yeah, is it ultimately worth it for you and your journey, your trajectory? Yeah, great question. Yeah, Kochi.
So, yeah, as I mentioned before, I'm like, this is my last semester. So I've been like applying like job right now. And then whenever I see, I check LinkedIn, I can see like how many people already applied to the position. Then sometimes it's like 200 people. And then that number like makes me so nervous. And I just feel like, okay, like maybe I should apply another company because yeah, I don't know, the number kind of
It can be daunting.
scares me,
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, and I know a lot of people have amazing resume and like cover letter. So like, how I can, like, yeah, like how I can stand up and then like compete with them. I don't know. Yeah, that's my question.
You have to use your network. So I
Yeah.
think whatever you want to do, I know we have so many, you said you wanted to move to New York, right? So we know that we have such a strong, amazing base in New York. Like go upstairs to the alumni relations office and be like, who's in New York? What are they doing? And like start making those connections. Much like you reached out to me when I was in St. Louis to have coffee and conversations. People are going to be like, absolutely, will take advantage of that too. I think there's just this culture here at Stevens that we want to help one another. And I think that's what makes us so special. So I think just putting yourself out there and starting with that short list or long list, I don't know how many women are out there. But based on what you want to do, I think just start emailing and seeing where people work and get a good understanding of, life in New York from their perspective. Like I said, most of my jobs following graduation were from a Stevens connection. Even so, like, for example, whenever I left Stevens, I went to work at WashU School of Medicine, and there was a Stevens alum working there. And she was like, let me know when you apply, but also send me your resume and I'll make sure like the appropriate person, so it doesn't get lost in the HR world when it goes through those resume screening things. And so absolutely take advantage of the network and leverage it. I think as much as you can to be able to work around those bots and the AI to get around the resume screeners. I think that's going to be like my number one advice there is reach out to your network. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been pretty, I was just telling you this before we started, but not being a Stevens woman myself, coming into it and seeing the camaraderie here and seeing all of the connections and the alumni and how everyone they want you to succeed. The graduates here, they are out there and they're doing great things and they want to hire Stevens women for their open positions. And I think, yeah, that's great advice. Use that connection because they want you to succeed and they want to hire you. So yeah, keeping those relationships going, starting the relationships, keeping them going. Absolutely. Oh, Nicole's got another question. Oh, it's okay. We want questions. This is great. Do you have a horror story about relationship building? That's a good one. Thanks, Nicole.
Horror story. I don't know about horror stories, but I think as I was thinking through like what advice I would give is recognize when a relationship's not really fulfilling what you need or it's working. I think you'll get to a point where you feel like you're exerting way too much energy into this and not getting anything back out of it. So I think recognize when it's okay to back down. I'm trying to think of like a horror story. I've been very fortunate in like my many coffee chats and many meetings that haven't been horror. Or they just haven't, or I just dated, I don't know. Maybe they haven't, and I just haven't recognized it. So
I guess kind of along those, that same thought, have you ever had a time in your career where you realized that things weren't going in the direction that you wanted your life and your career to go in, and you had to pivot? Like we talk a little bit, in this program about like the pivot and having, you're going on an intended direction and you kind of know where you want to end up. But there's a point in there where you realize that things are not going as planned, but also that something needs to change, right? Like, have you ever had that point in your career where you've had to pivot?
absolutely. Yeah. So I spending 7 years in St. Louis for a healthcare nonprofit. I really was like, okay, I'm going down either the healthcare avenue or nonprofit. And really, I think just given how I've grown up, and I have a lot of my grandmother in me too, that she just had this philanthropic heart and wanted to give back. So the nonprofit life most definitely resonates with me. And I truly thought, okay, 7 years of healthcare nonprofit, like this is where I'm going. I'm going down this path. But finally, not finally, but as I was like nearing the end of my tenure at this organization, I was like, I'm having a panic. Is this really what I want to do? Like, do I want to go? Like, do I want to continue this? The nonprofit world, is this something that I want to pursue? And so that's scary at that point. How old am I? Like 2 years, mid-30s. I was like, I should know what I want to do with my life by now, but apparently I don't. And I'm going to pivot into the for-profit tech consulting world. And so it's just totally different. It's been a huge pivot and shift. And so it was scary. It was definitely scary at first. And there was a lot of that imposter syndrome where I was like, I don't know analyst relations. I remember one of my first clients was an IoT platform. I was like, I don't even know what IoT stands for. It's Internet of Things. I've since learned and had to like YouTube and do the IoT 101 and figure out what my client was actually doing. There was a lot of that imposter syndrome. And I think just over time and remembering like it's more than the AR, and I'm recognition that I'm not the smartest person in the room, that I'm not seen in my role at AR as the expert in IoT. I'm the expert in analyst relations and building those relationships. And so I need to lean on my clients to help educate me on what IoT is. And I think, and they're more than willing to do that because they want you to recognize like, you're not just AR, but you are our AR partner and we are the client. We want to help you learn our business so that you can make those solid recommendations for the analyst channel. So it took a little bit of like, is this right for me? I think this is right for me. It took a good probably 9 months in that role where I like finally got my feet underneath me. But it was certainly a pivot. But I will say that because of the culture that we have at Spotlight, I've been able to harness my love of community and giving back through leading our community enrichment team, which is really a combination of what are we doing in the philanthropy space and what are some of the volunteer opportunities? What is our employee charitable giving program, which is what we developed and are currently implementing? What are the issues and the conversations that we need to be having internally as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and bringing those forward? So I feel like I've been very fortunate to say, like, I have a passion for this, and this is still what I want to do, and to be able to do that in my everyday is important. And I think really helps drive my work and recognize like I still can give back to my community in my everyday role. And so I think as I like talk to all of you, I think just recognizing it's okay to have that pivot and talk about your passions with your colleagues. Like everyone at Spotlight knows that I come from a nonprofit background. They know that that's near and dear to my heart. And so I think to know that I have that support system within to say, let's get Rikki the support and the resources to do this, I think is amazing. And I am very fortunate to be able to do that. So I feel like I've kind of pivoted out of the nonprofit world into, you know, consulting, but still being able to get that little bit of piece of me that I love and am so passionate about.
And you had also mentioned in there that, you know, you jumped into things that you weren't immediately, you know, well-versed in.
Yeah.
And I think that that is so important for people just starting out to know that you're not going to know everything, and like, there's no way you can know everything. And there's points where you really need to be brave and go into it. And have you found that, and you kind of spoke to this, have you found that, you know, your colleagues have been very, I mean, do they sort of share the same mindset as, you know, you're here to still learn things? You know, you're not expected to be an expert in every single thing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just something that's very important. And you're really speaking to building relationships within your team at work as well. And yeah, it sounds like you have a very strong support team.
Yeah, I do. And I will say, like the CET, for example, like I can't do that alone. I have a team that I am leading, just given we have very passionate people that I work with. And so to know that we have really taken this past year as we were building on our community enrichment team, I always say like we were building the plan as we were flying it, but have gotten to a point where we're pivoting and we're recognizing that we need processes in place to create longer sustaining relationships with nonprofits in our organization. So it's, you know, from that aspect, it's been great. But I think from the AR, like my day-to-day, like that is my day-to-day. My client work comes first, absolutely. But, you know, Spotlight, no one that comes into Spotlight has analyst relations experience. We come from all different backgrounds, but they recognize that. And I think you'll see this, and I would encourage you as you're going out there looking for jobs and like recognizing and understanding what is the onboarding experience like. Spotlight's very robust. I spent 90 days in onboarding, really truly learning, taking the time to understand like, what is analyst relations? Like, why is it important? What are the things that I need to do to build out an AR program? And so I've never seen an onboarding experience quite like that. More times than not, and every other job I've had, it's just been like, here's your computer and go. And so I think understanding as you're moving into a new role, like just asking the recruiters and asking the people that are trying to get you on board, like, what does it look like coming to work for your job? Like, am I going to be thrown in the fire? Or is there a formal onboarding process, an opportunity to like truly learn and understand the business and the craft and the people that I'll be working with? So I give a huge nod to Spotlight for recognizing that and seeing that they just want to acquire as many talented people and smart people as they can. And so I think if more companies can move towards that, just to know and understand that a lot of it you can take the time to learn. It's gonna be a lot, like drinking from a fire hose in the beginning, but you'll get to that spot where you're smooth sailing and confident to be able to do the work.
And while you were saying that, I kept thinking about Creative Inc.
Yeah.
So again, for those who are not at Stevens, Creative Inc. is our student-run marketing agency. And so as one of the founding members was, you know, whenever you start something new that had not been done before, I'm sure that there's a lot of that, like learning as you're going.
Yeah.
And was there anything about that experience, about really learning how to develop Creative Inc. From essentially nothing, right?
Yeah.
Was there something that you took from that, or any sort of experiences that you had in that sort of have stuck with you throughout your career?
Yeah. So I think it's learning, understanding your clients, and just to know the history and the context and their programming of who they are, to see, make sure, like, one, that the mission, vision, values like aligns with Stevens, with Creative Inc. But then also we do that with Spotlight, where we have an immersion process. So, and it's similar to what we would do, but just like immersing yourself in the client's business and like truly understand, like, who are their clients, what are their, how do they represent their brand out in the community. So just taking that time, and I feel like I had a little bit of that within Creative Inc. and then have really seen that throughout my career. But also with my internship at Wonderman truly like helped frame things for me in terms of how to run an agency. Not saying I like knew every single thing that I needed to do to run an agency. I was only a junior going into my senior year of college, but having a good baseline understanding of like the project management aspect of it. Like, what do we need to do to keep ourselves organized, to make sure that we're meeting these deadlines and getting these deliverables to the client in a timely fashion. So it's, I think first and foremost would just be like learning and understanding your clients and who they are, what makes them tick, and everything in between.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Any final questions out there? Yes.
You were talking about recognizing when relationships aren't working. So have you ever had a time where the relationship wasn't working, but it needed to, like, say it was like a client and just like, and how do you manage that?
This is where I work for a really good company. So Spotlight, I can give like a example just from my current company. I feel like I'm a people person. I can get along. I feel like I can get along with just about anyone. But I didn't get along with this client. Like, we just bumped heads. No matter what I did, it just did not seem to work. I think our personalities clashed too. And so me take it personally, right? Because I'm like, well, why don't you like me? Like, please. And so I like had to step back and like recognize, like, okay, Rikki, like not everyone's gonna like you, and that's okay. And so just having that conversation with my manager and then the owner of our company, I was like, I don't want this relationship to my relationship with her to impact the company as a whole. And so recognizing like I'm not the right fit for this client, I think you need to bring on another client executive. And I will never forget that the owner of the company of Spotlight was like, I will get rid of them before I get rid of you. So we will transition you off of this to bring someone else in. So I think having built that relationship and having that reputation that I do know what I'm doing, we just don't get along, can go a very long way. And so that's like one just recent example where I was like, I got to walk away from this. I can't do this. Like, my mental health is going and I'm losing sleep over this at night. And so just having the conversations, and I would say too, in this regard, I started having those conversations with my manager as soon as I like noticed that this wasn't going to work. So it took several conversations leading up to when I was like, I can't do this anymore. And so just to be able to walk away from that, but still have the support and saying, you know, just because you are no longer working with this client or you lost this client, like, we're not going to get rid of you. So I think just knowing that that exists within the culture where I am, I think is extremely empowering for sure.
Anyway, so we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much, Rikki, for being with us and for sharing your experiences. And it's just been such a treat to have you here. So thank you.
Absolutely.
And thank you all for in person here for joining us and on Zoom as well. And we hope to also catch you at our annual conference coming up. So that's hosted by FIU. Again, that takes place on October 20th from 12 to 2 p.m. Central Time. And it will be a virtual event, so it's free, it's open to everybody. And you can register at go.fiu.edu/the future is female. So yeah, thanks everybody, and hope to catch you at our conference, October 20th. All right.